Welcome everyone to another episode of Ed and Energetics. I have another guest with me today. I have a colleague and a friend, Deborah. We met back in Palm Springs of 2023, and she's an amazing individual and woman. And go ahead, Deborah, and tell us, what is it you've been up to lately?
Well, Edna, first of all, thank you. It's so good to see you again, and connect with you. And yeah, it has been a busy couple of years. When we met at the mastermind, I already had a website and I was already doing some readings. And since then, I've really kind of honed it down and sort of focused on working with the art that I had started working with through my collaboration and connection with our mutual colleague and friend John Mothershead. We've had lots of exciting adventures happening since then. But what came to me was to really sort of just starting to focus on, and I resisted it for a while with the astrology. It's something I have done for many years on a personal level. I did it professionally for a little while and sort of moved away from it. But I had the opportunity as a result of some work with Bradley to sort of get very clear on a different way of approaching the energies so that I don't get really overwhelmed. So I decided to just sort of focus on the website and the services that I do on doing what I call soul sessions, soul readings. For someone who's never had a chart done, I do a full in-depth interpretation of the chart. And then for people who have had that done, or if they've already are familiar with having their chart done beforehand, I also do update readings. So what's happening in the next year, 6 months, or things like that. And for me, it was, coming to that point of being able to explain that I don't work with the astrological energies as being predictive. I consider it prescriptive. In other words, I'm looking at everything that's happening in a chart, everything that's connected to astrology. First of all, it's very scientific. The data on the patterns and what is likely to happen when certain dynamics and patterns exist.
Mhm.
It goes back millennial. It goes back thousands of years. The reason we have any basis of astronomical information, how we found the outer planets and everything, was based on the data of early observations of the movement at the time of the planets that they could see, without assistance, and then developing telescopes and so forth. So it is actually very scientific when it's done properly.
Mhm.
Um, so there's a lot of data in terms of the cycles, but it's a potential. It's like a weather report. You get up in the morning, you turn on your TV set, and the weather forecaster and there's this map, right? Now people are used to the big H with the high pressure, the low pressure, the little dotted lines. And a lot of people don't know what all those symbols really mean, but they understand, oh, low pressure might be stormy, high pressure, it's going to be better weather. If there's a clash between the two, it's going to be, maybe thunderstorms, what have you.
Right.
Low temperatures, mean that precipitation might freeze, ice or snow. So it's symbolic, though. What's on that weather map is symbolic. Those symbols are not making things happen, and it's also a prediction.
Mhm.
So when I use that analogy, people say, "Oh, yeah, is astrology more accurate than the weather?" And I said, "Well, if your weather people are really good." Then the predictions are pretty good because weather reporting is usually pretty accurate within a close frame of reference within the next day or two, and knowing exactly what's going to happen 3 months from now kind of depends. There's a general pattern.
Yeah.
You live in a certain area, winter's going to pass, you hope. It's going to warm
Mhm.
up, but how warm is it going to get and how soon? Astrology's like that too, because it's this cosmic energy that is out there. It's one representation of the cosmic energy that's out there. There's many of them, tarot cards, oracle cards, intuitive angel channeling, all kinds of things, right? But this is one way of connecting with that energy. But then we, both individually and collectively as human beings, begin to make choices. Um, I can look at an aspect that's in my own personal chart and say, ooh, this is going to be kind of a challenging new moon. This last Leo new moon, definitely for me. I have a lot of Leo energy, but there were also some other aspects in effect as well. Now I know a number of people who said, oh yeah, it was intense, but it was really inspiring.
Mm.
And then there
Yeah.
are other people say, I don't know, I just kind of had some weird dreams. Well, that all is the sort of overlay of the dynamics between the map, the energy that you came in with. So I approach the astrological interpretations as the potential and letting people understand that they're sometimes knowing, a bit about the dynamics of energy that are coming, that then that can prepare, that can help them make choices. Maybe there's an energy point where someone's trying to push something forward and they can't figure out why. And I said, it's just not the right time. Wait
Mm.
3 months, the timing will be better, or those kinds of things. But the other piece of what I do came through as a result also of working with Radley, and then also of connecting with our mutual friend and colleague John. And that was from a series of classes I had done with Rad very early on. And I did meditations for people. What I used to do before I went back to the astrology was I would meet with people, I would read cards for them, and then I would record a personal meditation for them to use going forward. I've had a couple of people ask me if I could bring that back, and I thought I will consider that. Um, right now the charts keep me pretty busy. But what started happening when I would record those meditations is I would get images.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it was just colors. It's like I look at the beautiful angel behind you, and it reminds me very much of a type of energy that I had seen for someone. And so I started creating pieces of personal artwork for people that I would send to them. And over time, I realized that certain angels represented in a certain way, certain colors, and that's when I did Angels and Auras with Radley and Dougal,
Uh-huh.
and where I met my friend John Mothershead, who also does amazing angel artwork. And I watched his process, and I thought, wow, that's really cool. I wish I thought of that. And he
Mm.
said, well, I don't own the rights to this process. You can go ahead and use the same way that I make my paintings. And I thought, no, it's generous. It's very kind of you. I said, but I feel like I need to come with my
Yeah.
own
Something.
process.
Mhm.
And then a mutual friend of ours, who was also with the Angels and Oars, she said to me, I just keep seeing you painting on like organic stuff, like rocks and wood.
Okay.
And one day I walk into a craft store and I find these little wooden discs
Yeah.
sitting on a shelf. These are like the ones that like when you cut off the bottom of a Christmas tree. And I was like, oh. And so what happened is I started to put the paint on the discs. This one is a guardian angel disc because it has specific angel colors and then little feathers on it. It's a guardian angel disc,
Oh,
or angel disc or guardian angel disc, depending on how people want to appropriate. This is the pink one is for Joe Fiel. So I'm resonating with your angel behind me. That's why I picked that
yeah.
one for
It's like
to
that's
show
what I heard.
you.
Sylvia. I'm like,
Yep.
oh.
Yep. She's my pink angel. I know Radley sees Ariel also in pink, but Ariel comes to me in a different color. And I remember being afraid to tell him that. And then
What
finally
color
one day
does
I
you
just
see,
met
Ariel?
Ariel, because Ariel is connected so much to nature. Ariel comes to me in, I see her kind of like that in that green garb running through the woods.
Okay.
And she comes to me in the colors of autumn, like a beautiful sort of golden yellow or orange.
Okay.
A lot of times she comes through in like the color that the leaves, when the leaves are like all beautiful. Because one of the beautiful things about central New York, where I spent so many years, the autumn colors are just
Uh-huh.
astounding. And so she comes to me in those colors. So I started experimenting with this, and so now that is a part of the process when I do a life soul reading for someone. The first time I do a chart analysis, a deep soul session, they also get a personalized energy disc. And they're all different and they're all unique. And it's a very interesting process because I don't do it with the reading, which John does his artwork as he's reading. I do my chart analysis, that energy reading, and then within a day or two, I will sit down with the energy. Sometimes it's even right after the reading. Um, I will sit down and I'll pull out my paints and I'll look at them. I'll have the disc there and I'll just be moved to pull certain colors and put that paint down and just use a brush gently to sort of move the paint around, maybe add a little bit of color here or there. And then there's a certain point where Archangel Gabriel's like, put the paintbrush down, walk away, leave it.
Done.
And I will come back. People will get their discs and they're like, how did you paint that tiny little heart? And I want to say, oh, it was, quite a moment of inspiration. I'm like, it just appeared.
Yeah.
It just appeared in the paint when the paint dried. It's like, the little swirl, and then all of a sudden this little chart, or like I have actually had colors appear and I'm like, I didn't put gold in there. Where
Oh,
did that gold come from? Like, I was like, oh, okay. Um, and so, but on some level, perhaps, that energy comes through.
yeah.
So that intuitive art
Hmm.
became a really big piece of what I was doing. So it's, working and we're always working with angels for that. So there's angels art and then the astrology piece of it. And that together, all together, um, creates the body of work that I do for people.
Wonderful. That's amazing. So, I wanted to ask you, how did you, I like to call it rediscover your gifts. How did your story begin? And how did it begin and, to get you to this point?
It's so funny because I just came from our biz coach Mooney's coaching the
Oh, yeah.
session that he did today, and the topic that we are talking about is going back and looking through your journey and what were the key points, and
Oh,
and
wow.
sometimes they're
Okay.
really wonderful points, but sometimes they're really challenging points. So we were actually thinking about that. So I had actually had, and I thought, oh, this is perfect. You know, I don't honestly. Um, I cannot remember a time when I did not feel some sort of presence, a
Okay.
divine I don't mean just like spirit guides or whatever, but like a divine presence. And to the point that I got kicked out of Sunday school because I asked a lot of questions. Like the God that they were talking about was not God that I knew. That was not the God that I talked to and prayed to at night. And in the church that we went to when I was a child, you know how you tend to sit in the same pew all the time when you go to church with your family? And so my parents kept me, instead of sending me to Sunday school, they kept me sitting in church, and they knew I could sit and be good and quiet. And I listened to the music, and I probably was sort of meditating or zoning out. But there was a stained glass window near us, and it was the stained glass window of the Annunciation with Gabriel and Mary.
Yes.
And that angel would talk to me in church. It was like I'd be looking, and it was almost like, I can't really say, it's almost like it's kind of cartoonish. I can't really say that I saw her turning to me, but I was just watching. It was almost as if I was Mary in the window, and she has her hands on Mary's and shoulder, and she's talking to her. It was like I was having this conversation. There was also at the front of the church this beautiful Rosetta stained glass window of just many, many, many colors. I think it has like the 12, I think they connected maybe to the different like 12 stations or some sort of aspect, I don't remember, but it was beautiful, just stunning. And sometimes the light would be shining through. And I always felt like there was a presence there. I wouldn't find out who that angel was until many, many, many years later when we were doing Bradley's first magic year of magical membership, when the month that he introduced Archangel Raziel, and in that meditation, and he talks about Raziel as the angel of the rainbow, and he talks about the colors, and I've got my eyes closed, and suddenly I see the stained glass window in church, and all of a sudden Raziel's coming through, and I go, oh my goodness. Um, so I'd always had a sense of that presence, but as you grow up, you kind of sort of doubt a lot of those things. But, I look back on some of the things that my parents say about things that would happen or things, and it would be like, how did you know that? Or, yeah, well, you kind of knew that, you mentioned this or whatever. So there was always certainly a sense of intuition. Um, and when I was 10, we moved from New York City, where we lived, we moved to Hong Kong. We went back to Asia. And discovering the Eastern aspect of my heritage, my mother's Japanese,
Mhm.
and discovering Buddhism and meditation and things like that over the years I lived there in Southeast Asia and then also Korea until I graduated from high school. So I was able to uh, learn about Tai Chi and meditation, and I sort of went in sort of that kind of mystical realm. And that was sort of the part of my life where I sort of developed that kind of inner sort of energy. But I went to college, had to experiment with being a free free spirit in college, and was busy trying to figure out, career and everything else. I went into film and television. I wanted to go to art school. And my parents
Okay.
are like, no, no, that's not practical. You'll starve. You can't be a starter.
Right.
And also in the back of my mind, there were all those art teachers who said, you've got some skill, but you don't have a lot of talent. Wasn't ever winning like great, art, awards or anything like
Right.
that. I mean, my art a lot of times would be picked to be in the student exhibition, but it wasn't always like the most stunning. But a lot of people would say, "Oh my gosh, you're just so interesting," or whatever.
Mhm.
So, in the back of my mind, I think there was this, okay, I'll do something practical, but I wanted to do something creative. So I went into film. I
Okay.
studied film production, um, did a lot of, I was very interested in animation. And I worked in local television production for many years until I married and had kids, and that just wasn't a practical career to be in. Spent some time as a full-time mom,
Yeah.
and then in my like mid late 30s, a friend of mine opened up a metaphysical bookstore. And at that time, I had connected with a woman who was doing psychic development. She
Okay.
was offering meditation. And it had been a while since I had uh gone into, had a regular practice of meditation. I'd also along the way got connected to the Course in Miracles, and that had sort of become a spiritual practice for me, of contemplation. But she was offering meditation classes. We took those, and she took a bunch of us aside and said, "You all have to be in my next psychic development class." So it was through that I started reconnecting with the sort of intuitive reading. I actually worked as a reader in a spiritualist church. Where you go to church on Sundays and you stand and you go amongst, say, "I have a message from spirit, may I come to you?" And you do that sort of work. Um, and then one of the women in that group opened up a metaphysical store. It's funny, it started out as a health food store, and there were books on health food and some metaphysical things. And some people brought, one girl's like, she made these really pretty crystal necklaces, and we had a little bit of incense and things. And all of those things sold, and the food kind of didn't. And
Stayed there.
so over time, that took over, and we just had like healthy snacks. She would do bulk orders for people who wanted to get the holistic foods and stuff like that. Because at the time, it was really hard to find a lot of that stuff. So she opens up the shop and she says, "Okay, Verna does massage, and Sheila does crystal healing, and I forget, Tara does the card readings." She goes, "Deb, you're the only one who knows anything about astrology. You'll be the store astrologer." Now,
Okay.
I had been doing astrology for myself personally since my teens, when I first encountered astrology, learning about astrology. For me, I didn't have to learn the basics.
Mhm.
When I first discovered astrology, around the same time I discovered tarot cards, it was like remembering a mother language, like a mother tongue.
Right.
And so that allowed me over the years to really go deeper with it. But back then there wasn't computer programs for like casting charts, and it involves a lot of math.
Yeah.
And math is not one of my skills. So slide rules and stuff. So I had a chart, I had my own chart, you
Mhm.
know. And when my daughters were born, I paid to have a chart done, just a basic chart so that I could use that for, and then I could cast charts. But by the time my friend opened up her metaphysical bookstore, there was software available. It was kind of pricey,
Right.
but there was software. My husband's like, "Sure, we'll invest in that. Can be your birthday, Christmas present, whatever you want." And so I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to be the astrologer. And the
Oh.
funny thing is, I would make these charts for people and sit there and spend all this time, because charts are very detailed,
Mhm.
all these notes of like, look at this aspect, don't, and then I would sit down to read for the person, and I would, I'd do a little just clear space, breathe, connect, to sort of set the energy, do a little prayer, protection around us. And then I'd say, "So what's on your mind? What would you like to know?"
Mhm.
Sometimes people just tell me what you see. Sometimes people had specific questions. And then I would just, as Radley says, blah, be loving and helpful. I would just start talking. And I'd be saying something like, "Why am I saying that?" And I'd look at the person's chart. "Oh, because Mars and Jupiter are in this kind of an aspect in their chart." It
Uh-huh.
was coming through. The chart was just there as validation. Now, granted, I've already connected with the energy of the chart. To this day, when I do people's charts, while I look the information up on my software, I don't print it out. I have
Right.
a blank template of a wheel, and I hand draw the chart myself. I put all the energy points on there. I add the colors. That's what I do. Because to me, as I am hand drawing the chart out and writing all those things in there, that's how I'm connecting intuitively with the energy of that particular chart. Well, and that's
Mhm.
true for whether it's a person's chart or like the chart for the next new moon or whatever. Where I actually, even though I can put it up on the computer and do it really easy, I will make a chart, a little wheel and write it all in there. Just so it's I realized in that work that it was about connecting with energy.
Yeah.
And, it would be quite a few years later because there was a period of time where my friend moved out of the area. Some of my clients followed me and I continued to do it, but eventually when both of my daughters were of school age, I went back to work full time. And I had a great career working with special ed kids. I loved it until I retired in 2020. And my plan was to go on a road trip and travel in my RAV and go camping and adventuring, and no one went anywhere in 2020, right?
Right.
So
Well,
that's when I discovered Radley's classes online, Dougal's class, and I just kind of went back into that area and took it deeper. And it was the connection with the angels that happened, and it was the community of people. It's meeting people like you and other friends and colleagues that we have, that when we come together and validate each other's experiences, that you realize, oh, wow, yes, that angel in the church really was Raziel. I didn't, never even heard of him until I met Radley, but so it's these little pieces that all sort of come together. A friend of mine was just talking about how life is like their life story is like a puzzle. All of these pieces coming together, and it's, this piece fits here and this piece fits here. And sometimes you could feel like, there's something missing. Like for me, what was missing in the work that I was doing astrology, I was doing angels, and it was when I allowed myself to reclaim the title of also being an artist.
right. Yeah. So now you feel like you're on the path of what you're supposed to be doing.
Well, it's so funny because so last year I went to an event. Just I'm currently spend a lot of time here in Portland, Oregon, where my daughter and son-in-law live, and there was an event called Celebrate Your Life. Radley was there, Dougal Fraser was there. It was a number of people, and originally I was like, it's a little pricey, and actually I had a chance to travel to Japan with Dougal and a group of people. And I usually see Radley if he does a mastermind because he's now doing them in person. So I'm happy to go do those in person and connect with people. But then I heard that Denise Lynn was coming, and Denise Lynn does not do live events very often.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, she was supposed to do one for Hay House earlier in the year, and it was the same time. I think it was the same time when I was in Japan with Dougal, or maybe it was another trip that I was on, because I think Dougal actually went to that I Can Do It Hay House one. I think he spoke at that one, but she was supposed to, and then she wasn't able to. She canceled. So this was like her one big live. I'm like, I have to go, have to go. So I go and I run into a number of people that I knew. And one of the people I met is a author. His name is Joe McGonigal. And he was in another group where people were talking about. It was like a coaching group where people had different projects. And, I'm always sort of trying to sort of it's not so much that I question the path, but you know how you sometimes you start working in one direction and you feel like there's something more, right?
Yeah.
But I really went because I really wanted to see Denise Lynn. And I joked with Bradley and Dougal. I said, I love you guys, but I'm really here for, and they chimed in. Yeah, Denise Lynn. We're here for her too. That's why we said yes. That's why we were like, definitely we're in for this year because Denise is there. And she was amazing. But at lunchtime, so I ran into Joe and I said to him, on the merch table, is that your book that you said you were going to have published? He goes, and he kind of laughed and he said yes. And I said, okay, I thought that was you. So, I said, well, I'm going to go buy a copy and I want you to sign it. And, you know, through the process of different things, I have some ideas, and I have an idea for a book that I want to write.
Awesome.
And um, and so I asked him, I said, this is self-published. I asked him for information about how he published it. And he says, well, the what the it's a small small self-publishing company.
Mhm.
It's a husband and wife team. And actually Kira, the she's here. She's on the staff for Celebrate Your Life. And I think she's doing a presentation either today or tomorrow. Earlier that day, first thing in the morning, they always had people who did like little energy movies. Had different people do different things like Tai Chi or, whatever. And this one very charming young lady had done this beautiful, like just a spot, sort of you're standing and you're meditating, just or centering. And then she said, wanted everybody to spread out. She close your eyes or open your eyes. But we're in this beautiful space. Kamania is like in this gorgeous, gorgeous place along the Columbia River. And she said, but spread out so that you can move around. You can close your eyes, open your eyes, but you're going to connect with a spirit guide, like a spirit animal, and they're going to take you on a journey, right?
Uh,
And it was amazing. And I'm talking to her and I'm chatting with her, and I'm like, oh, it's like, yeah, we got to exchange connect. She goes, yeah, you just seem so. I'm like, this is really fascinating. It's really wonderful. After lunch, I go in and the presenter says, so we have, a number of you have seen a couple of the books that are out on the table that have been self-published. We have one of the co-owners of the publishing company here to do this presentation. She also happens to be on my staff. And it's Kira, the girl
Okay.
that I met that had done the amazing thing. And I was like, oh my goodness. So it's like,
Talk
ding,
about synchronicities.
yeah, yeah. And so she's up there and so here you go. She's up there, she's talking and she talks about how they do their thing. And she says, one of the ways in which we help authors get started is her model for publishing is she creates anthologies, a collaborative anthology based on a particular topic. And she said, if you are interested, if you feel you have something to say about this topic, you write a chapter. I'm like, I can write a chapter. That I can do that, And so she talked about, and then so she says, so the title of our next anthology is Synchronicity. I'm like, okay, I just met her.
Right.
I didn't know that Joe was going to be at this at Scamania, or
Uh-huh.
let alone his book, right? So I find Joe, I find his book, and then it finds out I already met this girl, right? I already have that personal energy connection outside of the whole publishing thing.
Yep.
I don't know that that's what she's. And so this comes up and she says, and we're, for the next collaboration, we, have a special offer for people who want to get involved, you know, and then the slide comes up on the screen for their
Mhm.
publishing company. Just before I left for Scamania, my daughter and my daughter and son-in-law that I whose guest room I hang out with, when or hang out in when I'm here in Portland, we had watched our favorite movie from the girls' childhood, my two daughters, The Princess Bride.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
For those of you who are familiar with The Princess Bride, when I say this next thing, you're going to go, oh, okay, synchronicity number 3. Because the slide comes up and the name of her publishing company is As You Wish, which
Mhm.
is a key line. It is the key line that if you say as you wish, you and somebody responds to that, they go, oh, that because there's a character that says this. It's a key line all
Right.
the way through the movie.
Yep.
All the way
Mhm.
through the movie. So I'm like, okay, it checks all the boxes. So I ended up saying, okay, I will sign up for this. I can write a chapter. And then I immediately after doing it went, what on
What did
earth
I
have
just
I
do?
done? I have this other project I'm supposed to be working on. Is this a distraction? Am I like, but honestly, once I got out of my head and allowed myself, I would get up every morning and just write for 20 minutes. I'm
Yep.
just going to write until something comes. The chapter really wrote itself. So
That's
so
good.
now the book just launched, pardon me, the book just launched in February. And
Mhm.
so now we have the amazing synchronicity. Oops, we're disappearing. There we go.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, my camera's been a little funny with the background. But yeah, so now we have synchronicity is, the book is out and it was so amazing because I'm like, I did not have become a published author this soon on my bingo card. I was thinking, down the line, whatever. But it
So
just
now they
worked.
can find your book in on Amazon?
You can find the book on Amazon. Yep, up, yep. And if you want to find it to read it, and I will tell you, I am so honored to be amongst these writers. There are 30 different authors. The chapters are all short, so don't let that throw you off. Um, they're all amazing. They're all personal stories, personal experiences, heartfelt, you know, perspectives of so the top subtitle is exploring meaningful paths of connection.
Mm.
And to me, the way my approach my chapter is that synchronicity is the universe's way, the divine source way of 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 reminding you that it's there. The
Yeah.
presence is there. You know, that if you're like I use an example in my chapter of like sitting at the an intersection and wondering, oh gosh, and this is not I wasn't referring to writing this chapter. I was thinking about something else, a big decision I just made, thinking, boy, I don't know, I wonder if that was the right choice. And looking up and seeing a billboard that said, you're on your way to a brighter future. And it
Mm.
was it was it was a billboard
Right.
for like I think community college or something. So I hadn't chosen to go to community college, but that's that kind of thing. And I really do believe that it is all these synchronicities when I became aware
Mhm.
and allowed myself to say this is more than a coincidence, right? It is more than a coincidence that Joe, who he was there, that his book was also published, and I might have just seen Joe and said, "Hey Joe, how's it going?" But his book was there, that the publisher, was there, that they did a presentation, that all of the things connected together. So yeah, so it launched on Amazon. You can find it there. And the best way to look for it, because if you search for synchronicity on Amazon, there's a lot of books called Synchronicity. But if you
Okay.
look for Kira Schaefer, Kyrashaefer, she's the compiling editor. If you search for that, it'll come up.
It's also available in uh, it's a PDF file, so not a PDF. What is it? An ebook, so you can.
Kindle, you can get
Yes.
an ebook. Yep, you
Yes,
can
yes.
get an
And it's
ebook.
also audio.
There is an audiobook.
Oh,
Um, I will let people know that it's an AI voice.
mhm.
So I mean, I think it's not too bad. It would
Yeah.
have been really hard to have the book
No,
read by like
it was
all.
great. I downloaded the Kindle and I downloaded the audio with it, and it's perfectly fine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I ordered them already, and I've been going through them, and they are wonderful stories. So yes,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I will
And
make
so
sure.
it's interesting because one thing leads to another as a result of this. Just as this book was getting ready to launch, and this just having the book launch to focus on at the beginning of this year, because we knew it was going to be in early February. Kira was smart. She said, I know January energetically. She says, I'm getting this intuition. I said, oh no, astrologically, January is not a good month to launch anything. Wait till February. The
Well,
new year,
how
the
do you
energy of
how do you feel about end of June?
And as we move through this year,
Huh?
the energies are moving forward faster and
Okay.
faster and faster. Yes, absolutely. Energetically, 2024 literally lingered an extra month.
Okay.
The energy, the actual energy, the forward energy of 2025 did not come in until, interestingly enough, the Lunar New Year. That particular moon, that new moon in Aquarius, which connected with Pluto going into Aquarius, a lot of energies. It was almost as if we needed that extra, 3.5 weeks to really process and let go of anything, everything. Because there's the end of a 3-year cycle that peaked then. There was an 11-year cycle that also shifted. And it was really just like clearing it. And a lot of people said that, plans changed. We had some things happen in my husband's family so I was really glad that the launch didn't happen until February. But it also gave me something during a very challenging time to really look forward to. Like, I'm so glad that I did that. And, Kira had offered, she said, we have another, she does this to once you've published, a chapter in the book, in one of her books, she says, here are the things that we have coming forward. And if any of these projects are of interest to you, the people who have published with us before have a choice. And someone had done a reading for me in one of the other groups that I'm in, and they said, I see three. I think
Oh,
there's going to be a series of three, and it
okay.
does look like there. I am going to write
Listen,
two
I'm going
more.
to be the third because because we are in the process right now of getting our book out in June, and it's going to be
Awesome.
a compilation of stories of people's journeys of how they are um, where they came from and how they got to where they are now. So the
Mm.
title is going to be Embracing the Inner Light. And it's gonna
Uh,
and so hopefully if you have a chance, you'd be willing to write one of the chapters for us.
sure, sure. Send
Wonderful.
me the information. Send me the information. Absolutely. For me, when I wrote about the synchronicity, initially it was like kind of like these are all the things that have happened, but that just didn't flow. But eventually, is if you read the chapter, it kind of ended up being sort of this like fireside chat of like, here, let's talk about what is the synchronicity thing,
Right.
because I wanted people to read it from the point of view of like, this is really like if you kind of pay attention to this and understand that and synchronicities happen to people all the time. And people be like, oh, it's just a coincidence. But you can also kind of tell when they say that they're kind of like, this one feels like a bit. There are times when coincidences happen. Okay, it's just a coincidence, right? But there are times when there is definitely, something a little bit more to that. And it's just, you don't have to be real woo-woo. You don't have to be like, into meditation or cosmic things, it's just this little nudge of like, you have this connection to this energy that really is your soul saying, go this way. This is what you're meant to experience or to have in your life. So yeah, I would sure to send me the information, because my goal in the pieces that I'm writing now are to inspire people,
Yeah.
and it's the way I work with astrological interpretation. So I'm in the process of moving my content off of the Meta platform. Well, I'll probably stay with Instagram because I've always liked Instagram, even after it got bought up by Meta. And it's also how a lot of my personal friends, follow me.
Mhm.
But right now I have my business page is on Facebook under Deborah Rahalski Soul
Okay.
Spring Oracle. If you search Deborah Rahalski Soul Spring Oracle, you'll find the business page. I also have a personal page as well, but the astrology content is there. And I'm going to be moving that to another platform probably in March,
Okay.
and kind of move away from the Facebook platform and move to another platform. But my goal when I put out astrological interpretations, and I did them from a written platform for like a little over a year, and that started to get kind of stale to me. I just felt like I needed to do it differently. I recently just, because in January I was so busy I didn't have time to sit down and write a post.
Mhm.
I went outside one day. It was when I was still back in New York, and it had been snowing, but it was beautiful out. It was like magical. And it had stopped snowing and the sun was out, and I just went outside and stood in my yard amongst all the snowy bushes and just recorded like, here's what's happening. And
Yeah.
it was so easy and it flowed so well that I've continued to just post videos right now. So eventually I am gonna uh, start putting that on a YouTube, probably on a YouTube platform as well. Um, but for me, any of the content that I put out, whether it's about astrology or I'm talking about angels or I'm doing a card reading, my goal is for it to be really accessible and practical and usable.
Yeah.
Some of the concepts that we work with in metaphysics and spirituality can just seem sort of so etheric and kind of out there and kind of hard to grasp. What does it
Mhm.
mean to release your past? It's like, how many times do I have to do it? Or for people who are like, I don't know, I don't know about angels. I've had a lot of people, Uber drivers, really? Angels? I'm not sure about angels. And then I've had ones that are say, oh no, I believe in my guardian angel. I'm like, but I've had the Uber drivers that have said, and I've said, you've never had like an experience where something, almost happened and then something told you don't turn left, and I've had, well, yeah. Well, yeah, I said, well, that's kind of your intuition. That's also your angels tell, and it's like converting people, going out there and spreading the gospel of the angels. Um, but it's my goal is to really encourage people to believe in themselves, to understand that all of this, that's the angels, everything else, it's all a part of you, and all of the guidance and all of the 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 energy that is that you are, who you are. That people talk about, I don't know, I can't figure out what my purpose is. I don't know what I'm meant to do.
Right.
And I remember sitting in meditation and getting this message of like, you're a human being.
Okay.
Who you are is your purpose. Just
Yeah.
be yourself. And people like, I don't know what that means. And that is a part of that process of deconstructing all of the things that we're told. Who are we?
Right.
One of the first things I tell people, I'm a mom. I'm really proud of my two daughters. And if if uh uh, if I do nothing else in this world, I've brought these two amazing human beings and raised them, fairly successfully. For the unsuccessful parts, there's therapy. So
Yes.
that's what my youngest daughter says. Um, but but also, I started saying when people say, oh, who are you? I identify as a cosmic adventurer because life is an adventure. It's meant to be experienced
Yeah.
in all of its ups and downs and the messiness and the highs and the lows. It's not only just, I'm not into the toxic positivity of like, yes, you got to, you don't want to stay stuck,
Hmm.
in doubt or anger or fear or any of those things. But it's also really important not to bury that and to be, and part of discovering yourself and being able to believe in yourself, enough to like, what, I say I can write a chapter, and then I sit down to write it and go, I'm got nothing.
Exactly. Like, oh my gosh, what
What
did I?
am I gonna do? It's like, come on, you write an astrology post every month, and it's like, yeah. And it's just getting out of your own way sometimes, yeah.
It is definitely. Well, thank you so much for this time together. I will put in the bottom of this video how to make people can connect to you, where they can purchase your book. So it'll be
Mhm,
all the information will be at the bottom.
mhm.
Uh, is there any closing statement you would like to share with our audience?
Well, I will let you know too if people want to find the website where I have for readings. I don't have the book up there yet because I haven't quite figured out how. I mean, I suppose we could do an Amazon. Like we're still I'm still working the dynamics of that out, but people can just find the book itself on Amazon.
Okay.
Um, but if they want to find the website, you can search for DeborahRahalski.com. It's DeborahRahalski, all lowercase.com.
Okay.
And that'll bring up the website Soul Spring Oracle, and that's where I have my readings. Soon to have the video blogs. I think are eventually going to be linked to there. There's all these technical things to when
Yes.
you have a website. I love our business coach, and I'm like, yeah, well, you know how to do all this stuff, and then all these other people who are like, la 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 la, and it's like. Yeah, you either have the tech savvy or you have a team that does this, and I'm still trying to figure out, I had a free meditation on there, and that people could sign up for, and the link on that's broken, and so now I just got to figure out how to fix that. So I put that link off. I'll fix it, but yeah, but you can go to that website there, and I'm also going to put information for how to find the book there as well. So
Okay.
yeah, there's the website or the Facebook page, Soul Spring Oracle. Those are all places people can find me.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for your time and for your story. Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a moment to pop back in and let you know that I am offering healing sessions, and let me show you how you can connect with me. Okay, so this is my tap link uh, at Edna Energetics. You can send me an email by just clicking at the top, or you can book a session on my website by clicking on the book a session, healing session. Or I do offer some angel healing courses, and I do have a shop where I sell my cards. So if you're interested in buying a deck of affirmation cards, a deck of archangel cards, a deck of angel numerology cards, those are all available on my shop. So you're welcome to go there. My essential oil site is also available. I have workbooks for those of you who are interested in coloring. They're coloring workbooks or want to learn about the archangels. I have those available as well. And other things in there that you might be interested in. But if you are looking for a healing session for yourself or a loved one, please go ahead and either contact me, send me an email, or book a session online. Okay? All right. Thank you and have a wonderful day.